The following broadcast is brought to you by JK Entertainment, an MSR production.
Welcome to The Question. I'm your host, Kolb, and this is episode 4. Last time we spoke to Rev about the run game. We learned quite a bit of information. This time we have a very special episode for you. We are going to talk about what it's like to run basically almost a 64-man franchise. And today we have the man, the myth, the legend, Timbo on. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing well, Cole. Appreciate you having me, man, on The Question. How about that?
That's right. You've taken over the MSR here midway through this cycle, so it's interesting to get you on here and learn a little bit more about you and the process you had to go through. So first up, where are you from, my man?
I am from the Washington, D.C. area. Was born in Washington, D.C., 1988, 32 years old. Been in the D.C. area my whole life. Have a lot of family that's rooted in North Carolina as well as New York City. So a lot about me is rooted in the South, because that's like my mom's mom, my grandmother who passed. She's from the South, and a lot of people on her end are from the South. So then you route it up to New York, and that's just the city boy in me, man. I got a lot of city vibes to me. Like I said, I was born in DC, so I've all along the Eastern Coast is where my roots are.
Gotcha. So, being from DC, are you a Redskins fan, or a Washington football team fan?
Well, first off, I'm gonna just answer that with a good old hell no. There will be no way ever I will be a Washington fan. Born and raised as, actually, you know what's crazy? Let me break this down for you. So, from when I was born till about 5 years old. And I never knew this. I was a Redskins baby. My mom has said this story to me so many times, but my mother's side of the family were big Redskins fans. My grandmother, who I just mentioned earlier, she was a Redskins fan. My mom was a die-hard Redskins fan. I'm gonna get to the was in a second. So I remember being around that the Redskins games, especially the games against the Cowboys, were always events for us. We would have big family gatherings. Grandma would be there cooking. It was a big event back then when the Redskins and Cowboys played, or they played the Eagles, Giants. Those division rivalries, man. Those were fun. I remember those as a kid. But as probably about 5-6 years old, I went to my uncle's house for a weekend. And he was, big Cowboys fan, big time Cowboys fan. And, he comes from the Landry area and then the beginning of the three-peat with Irvin, Aikman, and Smith. So he comes from that lineage a little bit. And, at that time, the Cowboys were America's team. They were, kind of forming that. And he sent me, I was at his house and I was watching old Cowboys tapes. And back then, think about this, VHS tapes were still a thing. So we were watching like Cowboy highlights, and then I came home with like a Cowboys book bag, a lot of memorabilia, and a jersey. I got the Emmitt Smith jersey. I was 5 years old. So that was kind of the conversion for me, because ever since then I've been emotionally invested, both good and bad. And that's how I am with all my teams. I'm very emotionally invested because I watch them as if I'm on the team. So the Cowboys since then has been about 27 years straight of dealing with any way things can go wrong, they can go wrong. But the good days, boy, we celebrate them like they Super Bowl champs. So that's the life of a Cowboys fan.
Oh, I feel you. I mean, I'm a Niners fan, so we got that same roller coaster that we're still living back in the 80s. So.
Hey, man, for us, look, I remember the second championship. In was that 93, I believe, when we beat the Bills again, and then there was the one we won after that a couple years later when we beat the Steelers, and I think it was the early 96. So that I am still a Cowboys fan that remember us winning, but I'm telling you, it's been a long time. I've gone through puberty, I've had children, I've I've been in the workforce. Like, a lot of things have happened since the Cowboys last won the championship, so it's time to change that.
Yeah, I hear you. I mean, I'll be honest with you, I hope they never win one again. I'm not much of a Cowboys fan myself, but for your sake, I hope they do well. So what does the Timbo do for work outside of all the work you do for MSR?
So I am in the technology space, working in administration, operations. Most recently, I was working in a nonprofit area, doing some work on the conferencing side. So, cloud computing, things of that sort. Working with Google Apps, doing a lot of like intricate things. A lot of the space and everything's moving to the cloud. So I'm heavy in that space right now. Also looking to get more into, within my career, I'm also looking to get more into programming, doing some app development on the side, taking some courses and things like that. So, working with ServiceNow. There's a lot of stuff going around in the tech community that's really about what's coming. Look, artificial intelligence is really about to be a real thing, man. I feel like we'll be living in the Jetsons time period very soon. So
I hope it's more Jetsons and not the Matrix.
Man, please, please, man, please, not the Matrix. I do not want to be in the Matrix. Just too much stress. But I'm big on technology. One thing about that kind of got me there was just being very, I've always been a person that sees things 3-4 stages ahead of time, and I kind of got that feeling in high school about where things were going, like how I could see us having to be more on the digital side and doing more things, instead of analog. And then now, from the digital side, now things are moving more virtual, and then virtual into the cloud. So I've kind of been in that space and kind of on the cutting edge of things that are coming. And that's kind of kept me really locked into the tech side. And from high school on, man, it's kind of like I knew I always wanted to be a part of something where I can put my hands on it, or I can really facilitate things getting to the next spot. So that's kind of where I've been in tech.
Awesome. Yeah, I feel you on all that, man. I've taken a couple programming courses myself. Wasn't much for me, but here I am, 34 years old, still trying to figure out what I want to be when I grow up. So that being said, let's get down to actually some football talk. So being a Cowboys fan and having the first overall pick, I'm assuming that's where you're going to be going for Madden?
That's the expectation. I'm not going to give it away too much yet. I mean, look, the Cowboys are the best team in terms of, for me, I just feel like if you're going to be number one and that's my favorite team, why not get my team? You got Dak. They said now he's going to be superstar development. Of course, you got Zeke, X Factor. And then you also have DeMarcus Lawrence, so that's pass rush. Of course, young linebackers, Jalen Smith, LVE. You got Cheetah Bay, Awuzie, corner. I have to. One thing about me, I love having good DB, so I got to get better safeties. I know that much. And hopefully, who knows that Jamal Adams deal, if that still happens, who knows? But man, I mean, overall, you got the trenches are locked up in terms of O-line and D-line, so I'm excited about that. But one thing I will say, the reason why I'm say 100% if I'm taking the Cowboys, man, because I really feel like I want to give myself the option of having a team convince me in another direction. I want to have that option. I want to just give it up to the last minute. Like, is there a team that's worth taking over my boys? But man, I've done so much work. And look, for me to kind of be where I am at as number one head honcho, I guess it would only make sense that I take my favorite team. But we'll see. Dallas is 98% of what's expected for me to do right now. But like I said, we'll see.
Yeah, I feel you on that one. If I had the first pick, it'd always be the Niners for me. So
that's an easy call.
For sure. So when did you join MSR? I don't think you're not an original, right?
No, I'm not. I'm not the OG of OGs as like someone like Taco, Joey, even Smooth. Smooth's been in since the beginning.
Oddly enough, what you don't know, I'm actually an original.
I know, yeah. I remember you
I've been removed
that.
like 4 times, but
Jesus, sorry about my part of it.
Nah, hey, you know what? There's always
we got past that bridge, bro.
We get past it, right?
Got past that bridge.
But
I got it. I came in. I want to say it was season 4 or 5 of last cycle, so it was around maybe it was January. It was January of early 19 last calendar year. So that's when I first came in. Like I said, I think it was just 3rd or 4th season, or at the end of the 3rd season, going into the 4th. So I played 5 full seasons. Right out the gate, like I played a full season to start off. I went right. It was right after the Super Bowl. Got to the off season, figured the team out that I wanted, moved some pieces a little bit, and got right into it. But yeah, it was 4. I think I played 4 or 5 full seasons last cycle. And you add the 9 of this season of this cycle, so we're looking at about 13, 14 seasons that I've been in MSR.
Nice. Yeah. See, me and you were in the same division in the last cycle, so
I remember that, bro.
So, So what have you done any notable accomplishments in the MSR? Like, have you won any bowl games?
So I've been to, as far as, I think I've been to like, I want to say 2 championship games. So I want to say it was 4 seasons. That's the best way I can recall everything. So my first season, I went to the divisional round, lost to King. He was the Oakland last year. And then the second season, I won a game. Both years I had buys. And then the second year I won a game, but then lost in the championship game. And then the following year, same thing, went to the championship game and lost. And then the final season, I think I just went to the wild card round and I lost. So yeah, I've gotten as far as the Final Four a couple of times, but you know, the thing is, like, I always bank on getting to the playoffs and winning. That's one thing about me. If I get there, I'm gonna win at least one, and I've always done that. You know, pretty much everywhere that I've played. So MSR was no different. Just the competition really ramped up, and that's the best part about this league.
And the competition is insane.
Man, it makes you play so much better, bro. And that's the part of the game for me that, like, for some people they shy away from that, but for me that only makes me play better because I like to play against people where I have to think twice about doing certain things that I would get away with for other folks. It really just makes you lock in a little bit more. So yeah, being in the MSR, man, that's one thing that I really stuck to because it's a lot of guys that can really ball on the sticks.
Oh, I hear you. I'm still trying to figure out how to win some games in this league. So when did you become an admin? You came in admin last cycle, right?
No, that's
or was it this cycle?
Let's clear that up. So yeah, I actually became an admin this cycle right after the reboot. And what happened?
Oh, I forgot about the reboot.
Yeah, so and I can actually break this down because I don't know if everyone knows the full story, but basically the reboot happened. You know, we were having a lot of internal differences within the admin staff. I knew of a little bit because it's just my relationship with a couple of folks. And, you know, there was just some things changing. Folks, we couldn't agree on things. And even Lenny reached out and was like, hey, man, like, you know, whenever we talk about things in the main chat, man, you're always one that just kind of, you never really waver from your point, regardless of what's said. Like, you shoot straight, you tell it like it is. And you're very smart. You know a lot about the game. How would you feel about being like the 5th person in the room? Because I think there were 4 at the time. And I'm not a person for big rooms like that. I just feel like there's too many opinions. You don't know who other people are speaking to, and they're bringing that, you know, opinion to the room and try to, you know, factor it base, makes it, you know, kind of weigh their mindset or whatever. But for me, when I got into the on MSR staff, my mindset was to never change. Like, okay, I guess I have a little more privilege. I have, you know, maybe a little say-so in terms of decision making, but it's all about whatever I can do to contribute to the team. So I guess what they saw for me was like I was very level-headed. Like I don't really, you know, I'm not going to be swayed by because that's the popular opinion. Like if I feel strong about something, I'm gonna stand on it, and I bring something to the league. From the moment I came into the MSR, I came with the reputation of social media and, you know, creative media, writing, blogging, things like that, and just always being consistent no matter what I did. So that was another part of it, the content and the consistency that I bring, and, you know, that it was real obvious that I wanted to be, you know, a part of the MSR. And then from there, you know, starting at the admin, that was kind of, when I became an admin, that was kind of the mindset of where, like, what can I do to help repair the league? Because we all know the reboot, the folks in the community know that when the reboot happened, it really had us in disarray because we were all against it. It all kind of happened in like 3 or 4 hours of the news coming out about O-linemen having X-Factor abilities. And it was like, well, we can't put it into an already created franchise, so you would need to recreate it. And it was like, do we really care that much about O-line abilities? Now, looking back now, it does help to have them because who knows if we were 6-7 seasons in and then we were like, man, it would be dope if we had these. But I mean, right.
But in realistic terms, though, there's not that many people out there with O-line abilities.
And that's the thing. That was my thing. Like, I already saw that ahead of time, Cole. Like, I was just in my mindset, like, yo, it's not going to be like...
You can't even gain them, right?
You can. They just have to get to certain levels. And then, like, what we've been dealing with between Genesis and the MSR team is we've been having to, like, actually go and edit players to the point, like, so, for example, a couple of guys have reached out during the playoffs that are in the playoffs that they have guys that are, you know, either about to reach an ability, you know, threshold at 80 or 85, 90, and the game doesn't automatically give them the ability. So we would have to, like, go into their player, maybe take a left guard, move him to center, and then move him back, and then that will unlock the ability. But it's fine for now because that's been an adjustment that we've had to make. But it was just something that I still thought like it's not going to be that big of a deal. And if you can go and look, you've been a part of this community, you know, twice now this cycle, Cole. Like you can see it. Like it hasn't really been like a major mover in anything that we've done. There's been teams with low-rated old linemen that have really been successful, people that don't have any abilities. I think it's just more of the window dressing of it. Like the fact that they have the ability is just a part. It just, you know, makes them up. You know, if you have that player, then they play better, or you know that they have a better value for you, all that type of stuff. But at the time, I was super against it because literally within 2 hours of the information coming out, we were rebooting the league, and it was like, man, we're really killing a lot of the momentum that we had because now we have to start from scratch. People didn't want to redo those trades that we did, remember? So it really just caused a lot of division. It caused a lot of division in the league.
I had to give up 2 breakouts. I hit 2 breakouts the first time, and I did not get them the second time. I missed them every time.
I'm gonna give you something on that. The part that people didn't realize about why I was so against it. I had a worse, like when I started the first 6 games, because we were in week 7 or 8, I believe. I was coming off a bye. My record at the time was 2-4. Like I wasn't, you know, I was off to a slow start or whatever. I was fine with keeping it as it was because even if I had a chance to start off better at 4-0, you know, 6-2, 4-2, whatever, I would have been fine with that. That's dope, but I was fine with the team I had already created. Like I just wanted that team I had already, and I just knew if we started from scratch, people were going to get a chance to rethink some of the decisions that they had already made. And it was just like, man, we just really, it was. I just felt like it was something that we would look back on and feel a little bit bad about. And then, you know, to a good amount of folks, they feel like we shouldn't have done that. But I just saw the reboot really being a problem, and from that point on, we've had to repair and rebuild.
For sure. But on the other hand, I guess you could think that what if the abilities were something that was very important and we didn't take that step? Like,
right.
So it was kind of a lose-lose situation either way, I think. But so then eventually fast forward a little bit, and I had actually just left the main league when you were taking over. And, you know, I've had conversations with other people before, and I was actually, even before you guys were moving, I was actually thinking about taking a step back. You guys just kind of forced my hand at it, but you know, there was some things I didn't like, and then I guess Lenny came to you and asked you to take it over. How did that work?
Yeah, so Lenny was at a point in the cycle where I think he had started to feel the residual buildup of the reboot, the constant. You know, there's a lot of bickering going on, and you know, one thing we can say is that we're in these chats, man. We're really using these as an escape, or as a little bit of a getaway from what we, you know, dealing with on a day-to-day basis.
Absolutely.
And you know, for us to constantly be in a chat and we're having the same like kind of conversations, the same 3-4 folks are bickering about nothing. People are complaining about abilities now. You know, this and that sucks, and it just became a lot of negative, a lot of, you know, just pessimistic things that were really starting to build up. And I felt like Lenny, and I would say this, Lenny took a lot of heat for that because of course he's the fate, like he was the guy, the commissioner, but he took a lot of heat for the decision that he, you know, eventually agreed to, because it waned. It was something that just stung. It was something that was just like a bad stain on us. It just stayed around. It was always something that we had a point of reference to bring up. And we were just really just trying to find ways to move past it. And he comes to me, I want to say it was mid-March, and he comes to me and he says, hey man, look, I'm kind of done with Madden, at least for this cycle. He was saying he was done with Madden. He really didn't feel that he was really giving his most to the game. He wasn't feeling confident in his gameplay. He wasn't a fan of the abilities. He just wasn't a fan of a lot of things, and the things in the league were starting to build up on him. So it caused him to have some second thoughts about what he wanted to do. And in his personal life, he had some things that were kind of going on that were causing him to take the attention away. And, you know, one thing he said was, I was always around. You know, you're kind of one of the guys that people go to. People ask, you know, does Timbo do this, or is he this, he's that? And he said people sometimes even wonder if you're the commissioner because you just do a lot with this league.
Bro, I mean, even when I had an issue, I came to you. Listen,
that was another thing, man.
I stayed away from Lenny. I still do. I send things to Falco occasionally now, but I mean, I don't know. I guess there's a trust factor that I know that they come to you, you'll get it done, whatever it is.
Right. And that's something that I'm not gonna lie, I did take a little bit of pride in, because I would get a lot of DMs. I would get a lot of questions about this, like, how do you do this or how do you do that? And I would like kind of direct them to, others. I'm like, hey man, I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm on the admin staff, but I'm not like the guy. Like, you don't have to look at me as everything. He's like, no, man, you just always seem to be around. You always seem to help out. You do a lot of cool things. Like, I figured you would be the person to know. So from that point forward, I kind of took that a little bit. I was like, okay, maybe that's why Lenny saw that. Maybe that's why DK saw that. Because DK was another person that really kind of vouched for me and was saying, like, I feel like you're front and center on a lot of things that we need here. So I think him along with Lenny, they both kind of were the ones that, kind of pushed that button and really wanted me to, kind of take that next step forward and become commissioner. And I will, to the cows come home, I would tell them thank you for that, because it really changed a lot of things. And again, they put confidence in me in a way that maybe I didn't see it for myself.
For sure. I mean, even when talking to other people, they were like, yeah, when Timbo took over, they felt a change in the league, and like a refreshness, if that makes sense. So was that hard from Lenny to say that, or did he seem upset, or is he planning on trying to come back?
I don't know if it was hard for him, and I'm not gonna say I don't know if it was hard. It was hard for him, and even if he necessarily doesn't say that, in any specific way, I think it was, because we even had a conversation post, and I was asking him to give me information about something, because I guess I came off a little bit harsh about something in the staff chat at the time, and I was saying like, hey, he said, I'll go ahead and give you all the ownership of all the chats and everything in the server. And I was like, you kind of like, I'm very like, certain things, I'm just very straightforward and business minded. So I guess I said it kind of, and sometimes you can't really understand tone in these text chats. So
for sure.
So I said something to him in the sense of, well, cool, just let me know. And it was, I guess he just took that as very sharp, like, wow, he doesn't really care that I'm leaving. He just wants everything now. And he said, well, I'm sorry, man. Like, it's hard for me to give up something that I've been building for like the last 2-3 years. And I was like, oh, wait. No, that's not how I said it. I wasn't being rude. I just was like, hey, if you're going to go, like, or if you're going to do that, just cool, just let me know. Like, because I understood that it was a big thing for him. And I still didn't know that I still was wondering if he would kind of backtrack on that. I still wasn't taking it full force yet, because, I kind of thought it was an emotional decision. I thought maybe he was just upset about something. I think he had a bad game the night before. And, sometimes those things can really influence decisions out of emotion. But, he DM'd me, he kept talking. He said, hey, look, man, I'm like going to be distancing myself from Discord completely for a while. Here's my cell number. If you need anything, text me. And that was kind of like the breather, like, okay, like, I understand, like, he's serious. All right, so I actually have to take over. Like, I actually have to put things forward. And that conversation was easy at that point, because I got the sense from him that he was serious, but he was doing it in a way where it was more like, here, brother, like, here you go. You take this, he's passing the baton. You take this, and now you go further with it, because I can only run with so far right now. But you have a lot of energy to keep it running. And that was, for me, that was great. I took that and was like, you know what? That's something that I don't know if I would have been strong enough to do if I was in the same situation, because I'm as competitive as they come. I want to finish things through, as much as I can. And for this to be his baby, he built this from the ground up. And for that to be his baby, the original Fist logo, all that is Lenny. That's who MSR, was, to begin with. So for me to take that over, and then just, there's other reasons that may, that maybe kind of guess a little bit too, but he was very straightforward about, he wanted me to be on top. And there's been decisions that have come down since, and Lenny has reached out because word has gotten to him, and he was like, hey man, what happened? And I'll give him, I'll tell him the story, or, tell him what happened. And he's like, wow, man. He said, look, a couple of times he said, look, this is why you're the one. He said, this is why you're perfect for what we're doing, or, this is why I thought you would be. And so those little kind of, reassurances are key, because I still, like I said this on the recent New Dawn show, man, I'm still surprised that I'm commissioner sometimes, like, because it doesn't really hit me in that way. I've never looked at it as like, oh, I'm the head guy in charge, you got to listen to me, I'll create the rules, I'll run this league. It's not, I never carried it that way. It's not, I get no pleasure out of being that. I'm just literally a guy that, I play Madden just like you do, and that's why I want people to understand. Like, I play Madden, I play the same game that you play as many times as a 12-month cycle as you do. So don't look at me as a person that's just telling you what to. No, this is not that at all. I just happen to be in charge of something, a community that I'm facilitating. I put a lot of work into it, but it's as much it is me as it is for you. So I just happen to have a little more say so, and I run things in a way where you can see it, where it's like, okay, that's a Timbo thing. You know what I'm saying? He's not really, I always feel like I should give off the easygoing vibe, man, because I try to have jokes. I keep it the same with everyone. I don't care who you are. If you're an admin, if you are the newest guy into the chat, you're gonna get these jokes. Like, that's what's gonna happen. You're gonna see me. I do a lot of memes. I do a lot of gifts, but it's all in good fun. I'm never putting anybody down. I try not to really get into any back and forth, but there's times where you certain buttons get pushed, and you gotta put your foot down and say, hey, look, this is what it really is. But I try not to get there, because it's not about that. At the end of the day, it's about what we do on a controller for an hour a day, and then of course we chat, throughout our lives or whatever. But it's really about, at the bare bones, it's about playing on an Xbox controller and having the most fun that you can outside of your regular life, and that is something that I really take pride in.
Absolutely. I mean, I can definitely tell you that I've been in a lot of leagues, and by far this is the best one. And I've been in several leagues where it's the my way or the highway type attitude, and those just don't sit well. They don't feel like they build the community well enough.
And if I could add something to that, Cole, one thing that really kind of showed me that like leagues can be ran in a different way. I was a part of a really big community before, and they actually groomed me in a way that I still am catching those lessons today, because it taught me consistency. It taught me to always be on your P's and Q's. It taught me to pay attention to people that may not always have the league's interest at heart. You know what I'm saying? It tells me to pay attention to certain nuances in the actual game, certain things that people do with their rosters and their team building, or dealing with different personalities. Like there's a lot of things that people don't think about when it comes to Madden. They think you just play the game. Excuse me, that's my baby over there. But there's things that you don't, the small things, the soft skills that I think people don't even realize are a part of a Madden League, but you see them because, again, we are all different people. We all come from a lot of different, backgrounds, different, social crews, all that type of things. Like it's a lot of different people a part of this community. So you have to have that kind of wherewithal to be able to, like, okay, everyone's not going to see the same things the same way I do. But how can I appeal to what they're trying to do, or how can I at least have the conversation where we can exchange ideas and put everything at its best forefront.
Absolutely. So, like, one of the biggest skills that I've noticed, and I believe that you're really is empathy. You're able to put yourself into the other person's shoe to understand their situation. Whether their situation still could be completely wrong, but you can understand where they're coming from. And that's exactly what I think this league needs, for sure. So you've done a great job there. So when you started playing Madden, did you ever see yourself becoming a commissioner of basically 2 32 teams franchises?
No, I would never. I could never think that I would be a commissioner of Madden. Show that as like a thing, because like I've been playing Madden franchises since like Madden 02, 03 when they first started going online, and I was playing against the kids in the neighborhood and people next door. Like, we were doing our own franchises where after school we would get together and we would all be huddled around the TV, and we would be passing the controller around and doing fantasy drafts and playing simming weeks until one of us played each other, and then that would be the game that we would all sit around and watch, and then we go to the next game that had a user matchup and do that. So that's where I started. But when I really started, like I said, I played in bigger communities. When I started to do things outside of the scope of what I saw in terms of Madden League, that's when my antennas went up a little bit. I started to see, okay, I could run a league where it's about the competition, but then you could also create dope stuff that you want to talk about your team, or you could write an article about your team, or maybe you can post a message about your team. And of course, Twitter comes into play now. So I've been heavy on Twitter since probably about, even on my personal, I've been on Twitter since like 2009, right? And then, but like Madden and social media in that regard, I'll say probably 2016. And this is when people weren't even using Twitter in that type of way. Like, you weren't even using it to talk about their teams. They may have just maybe drafted a player and like want to create an account for the player, but then the account wouldn't be consistent. It lose energy after like a month or so. So for me, I just want to say, how can we do it for everyone in the league? How can we maximize? I mean, look, I created one league's whole, sports and like info and news source, a whole league's account. And then, when I left, they pretty much took it from me. But like, that was something that was my baby. Like, that was something I built from the ground up. I would do, I'm talking about, I used to, I would catch public transportation into the city in DC. So I'd be on the train, and then literally in between stops, you would get service, so as we're pulling into the stop, I'm on my phone going to Google, quickly typing in maybe, I'll say Lamar, for example, I'll say Lamar Jackson Ravens, right? I'll type that in there, and then I'll try to find the best picture that I can of Lamar Jackson, in the Ravens jersey, or what he's doing in action, throwing the ball, running, stiff arming something, and then get a quick picture, save it, and then attach it to a tweet. And then I would let the words do the talking, but then the picture would kind of bring out everything that I'm speaking about, and it'll be maybe just a game recap. But those little things taught me, like, you could do the bare minimum in your mind. It was taking 5 minutes, but I would have a whole list of tweets of things that was going on, recapping games, things like that, and it started to open my mind. Like, man, I could really make this a news source. I could be like this league's ESPN, and that's my mindset. I love ESPN. I commentate. I feel like I'm a commentator at home because I'm seeing things before they happen, before the commentators talk about it at times. So how can I put that into what I do on the sticks? And that's kind of how, even with Inside the Sticks, that's something I created when I got into Genesis, and I carried that with me all the way to MSR. And now today we got a crew of 6 or 7 people that's all a part of the crew. So that's awesome.
Yeah, I love it. I read those morning drops every day just to kind of see, because it's interesting to me. So it is actually like ESPN quite a bit. So what are the struggles that you have being a commissioner?
Oh, okay.
Get down to something serious.
Yeah, this is fun. I like this, man. These are really good questions. Struggles of becoming a commissioner, man. People, it's not necessarily people, but it can be frustrating at times to be a commissioner. And the reason why I say that is there are, like I said before, there are a lot of different personalities, there are a lot of different, opinions, I would say, of folks. And, you try to balance what's a good opinion and suggestion versus what a person is saying, like the timing of it, the context of it. Why is that a suggestion right now? What has happened to bring that suggestion up? And is there evidence to support that suggestion is a good idea or is a bad idea or whatever? And I think the only thing that has really bothered me the most since I've become a commissioner is that now, because I was so accessible, and and that's another thing, I'm always accessible to everyone. Like I feel like I have an open door policy. Like, you can reach out to me about pretty much anything. If you have a question about something you want to share with me, whatever, like anything. You want to talk about life, like I've helped a lot of people, and at least from what they've said, like, oh man, you helped me get through this, and because you just seem to be so focused on. And I'm not perfect. I got my issues here. Like, I've had the same, I've gone through my L's in my life, but I try to connect with folks that may be trying to figure out how to balance the two, because there is some balance when it comes to playing these Madden leagues, man. Especially if you're into it as much as I am. Like, you balancing time with your folks. Of course, you have your own thing. Of course, you have work. You may be the person that cooks in the house. You may do a lot of different things, but you have to have a balance of it. And I think at times some people put too much into it. So people that give a suggestion, right? People may give a suggestion, and it may be a really good suggestion, but it may come from a place where they just lost. So that's the suggestion that they're riding with for the moment. You know what I'm saying? Like, they just want to be the one that carries the flag for this, and it's only because they lost. Like, those are the things that are like iffy to deal with, because, like, yes, that may be a good thing that could benefit the league, but why are you the one that's saying it right now? Like, why is that the reason why you're bringing that up? Like, is it because something didn't go your way and now you feel like that needs to be instituted into the league? You know what I mean? Like, those type of opinions and issues it's like some of the most frustrating to deal with. Another struggle I would say is putting out great ideas or putting out initiatives, putting out like good ideas, stuff, content, the whole nine, and then some like feeling like it's not appreciated. And this may come out as a memo to the league, but I'm not portraying it to be that way. But if we had as much energy on Twitter as we have when people have like certain suggestions after they lose, I swear, like, as great as this league is right now, it will be even bigger, because I just feel like that's one place where we are lacking the most, is like the online interaction between us as league. Now, Twitter is not, in terms of Madden space, it's not the biggest thing to be a part of, but one thing that I do value is the interactions, man. I really value us showing that we are a tight-knit community. When they get into the servers and the chat, they see it, but sometimes from the outside, they don't see it. And a lot of times we have to do a lot of blasts in order to get a lot of support and retweeting from the league. But then there's also a lot of questioning of like everything that's put out. Like I've seen a couple of questions like, well, what exactly does this promotional mean? Because we're supported and promoted now by StubHub on New Dawn podcast. League Crawler is a big supporter of us. League Crawler may not give us anything, so to speak, in terms of monetary value or whatever, but it's the support. Like, League Crawler is still in the infancy stage of who they want to become, but they are willing to sponsor us in terms of giving us more exposure. They do a LCT series where they'll host our streams and on their channels on Twitch. Like, it may not come off as like, oh, this big, like if we were sponsored by, say, Pizza Hut or Microsoft or something of that sort, but it's still all about the support. And that's one thing in this whole Madden community that we need to be more honed in on, is just supporting each other. We don't need to be always competing like this league is better than that league, or your guys' rules are better than that guys. No, it's like, look, everyone is unique, everyone has their own space and the things that they do, but how can we support each other so where everyone can start to get their love and start to get noticed for the things they do? If you got a cool piece of content that you put out, we should be retweeting that. We should be supporting it. We should be reacting to that. We should be asking, who was a part of that, or that's really dope, man. I can't wait to see more. Like, a lot of that is missing, and that's something I feel like I've been like really on the front lines about, is networking and really connecting these other leagues. Because, like I said, being a part of bigger communities, it was always like they were trying to monopolize everything and really keep everyone else out. And it's like, man, we all play this game. Like, why should it be a competition about whose space is better, man? Like, hey, you guys do no switch over there. That's cool. I don't know how that works, but it seems like you have a good community and you guys are putting out great content. We put out great content too, but we are a switch league, and you can use it in the middle of the field, and you can do certain things like that. That should still matter,
Oh, absolutely. It does feel like a lot of leagues are us versus them type situations, which I don't really get, but I mean, it is what it is, and hopefully with what you're doing and we're putting stuff out there, and I saw League Crawler was in the showdown the other day and talking to us and stuff like that. That's pretty neat. And the StubHub thing's amazing. Like, we said that, and I was like, dude, what? Like, how did that happen? And then Falco got on the showdown and was explaining it, and I was like, man, that's really neat. Like, that's really cool for something for us to do. All right, so let's continue. We're gonna go with another difficult question. What is the most difficult decision you've had to make so far?
All right, so we're just gonna let the cap off of this one. So no, because like I said, I shoot it straight, man. I really don't like to play the guessing game too much. So folks know, we had an admin that was a part of us. Actually, he was a part of the community before I got here. Sonny, we're also known on Twitter as T4Verts, and so Sonny ends up choosing to leave the league. Like, he wanted to leave the community on his own, so be it. We were looking to get back to a lot of the things that worked in Madden 19, which was, we had a trade committee. We had the rules were very simple. They were very just kind of right down the middle. You knew what was expected. There wasn't really too much. There wasn't too much that was left for interpretation. And we were, first thing was we were putting out a trade committee, and we, actually it was DK's idea to start talking about it, and he wanted to bring up the trade committee, and so I come back to my phone, I look, and we're speaking about possibly bringing back a trade committee. Okay, cool. I like trade committees. There's nothing really bad about it. I mean,
I liked it too. I was mad when it was gone.
Yeah, so if you set the parameters properly, where it's like they're not really there to judge if every trade is fair or if it's yes or no, but okay, they can look to see, you're trading, like, for example, Patrick Mahomes was traded 4 times this cycle. That should never happen in any league. Like, he shouldn't be moved that much. So we had context of to why we were looking to bring this back. Like we took the trade committee away, and it literally blew open the whole league. I mean, we had people moving that would never move, like especially in the first season of a cycle. Like it was just too much of the big players moving to where it was completely shifting the landscape of both conferences. It was really just nuts. So that was a part of the reason why we started talking about it, and immediately there was resistance, and without even considering why. It was just, I've never been a part of a league where trade committees worked. Yeah, but they worked here. Like, and the only people that had issues with it were the folks that either aren't here anymore, or there was a person on the trade committee that seemed to always have issues with everyone. So that person wasn't around at the time. So it was like, let's not look at the negatives. Let's look at why it works, and then we can go back and work on how we can improve it. Or let's just talk about it. We were literally bringing it to the table, and it was immediately met with resistance. So that was the first thing. So, and I'm promising I'm gonna truly answer this question. I'm just setting the table for you.
Sure.
And then the next part was accountability, right? So, what made the decision that much harder about what I'm about to say is, all we wanted to do was put a light on something that we wanted to emphasize. We know that early in the cycle, I want to say late March or May, we kind of took away Twitter being like a main criteria part, like something that you had to do each and every week. Like we was like, look, that's not really what Twitter, we don't have to use Twitter in that way. And plus, we shouldn't be suspending people for not, because look, for full disclosure, you had been infracted for not tweeting in a long time, and you had your feelings about it, we had our feelings about it, we moved past that. But for an admin, regardless if it's not a required thing to do each and every week, that's fine. But it says in our rules that it's still a valuable piece of what we look at for activity and will impact team selection. So in a sense, it's not required, but it's still a big part of you being here. And if you want to, have it be valued against your team selection order, that's a part of it. Cool. We bring it to his attention that, hey man, we look, and you're the person, like you're top, this is Sonny was speaking about, you're the number one person that hasn't tweeted in 3 months. So it was almost like your situation, Cole, it was literally the exact same thing. He hadn't tweeted from, at the time, it was like April 4th until like the beginning of July. So it was like, yo, my man, like, we're not trying to, like, at first I came into the conversation saying we need to look for possible infractions and suspensions. But then I looked back and I was like, wait a minute, I was corrected by both the guys, and they were like, hey, remember, we're not doing that anymore about suspending folks. And I was like, okay, you're right, cool. But we need to at least send out a warning, because we're still looking at that for team selection. And if you're an admin and you're the top offender, we have to put that out there. Like, why can't we also put our faults out there if we're going to put everyone else's faults out there? Like, that doesn't seem fair.
Well, you got to hold yourself accountable first.
And that's it. That's all this about. Like, man, I'm not trying to put you on the cutting block. I'm just saying, hey, look, man, you haven't tweeted in 3 months. We're going to announce it this way. This is what we're looking at. And look, it's just a warning. It's like, look, come on, man, let's just start picking it up a little bit. That's all it was. And from that point forward, he wanted to leave. And he kind of did a whole rah-rah about it, made it seem like we were pushing him out. And I'm like, no, it was not like that. So I'm not going to say it was necessarily a decision that we made, but it was going to come down to that, because I felt like with the trade committee thing, and then also with the Twitter, it was like, these are two very small things that you're tripping about. Like, why are you upset about this? Like, there's no reason to be upset about something that we're just putting everyone out. Everyone's on the same playing field. We're admins, but we should be on the same playing field when it comes to, if we're wrong, we should be held to the same standard, and our stuff be announced in front of everyone else like we do when other people break rules. And that's all it was. And I just feel like he took it the wrong way, but it was tough because I value Sonny's intelligence. He's very smart. He knows a lot about this game. He knows a lot about football, sports, and life in general. He's very data-driven, very analytical, and I get that. And I understand he looks at things in a very numbers, like structural kind of way. But when it comes to being just simple, accountable on certain things, you got to do that. And I felt like that was something that was going to come down the pike eventually, because whenever it was time to put something to the forefront about, something that he may not have done or had done, it came with a lot of resistance. So it was a real tough decision for us because we didn't want to lose. But, it was the best thing for us at the time.
Or yeah, that being said, like, you don't want some regular, I'm not even saying a regular, other league members saying, hey man, why isn't, why aren't you guys doing this? You know, you don't want that type of situation. You don't want somebody else to call you out. You'd rather have yourself call yourself out and say, hey, look, we haven't been doing this very great. We got to do better. So, I mean, I understand that completely.
Gotta lock in sometimes, man. That's it.
Absolutely. So, are all decisions done by a vote? Is that how you guys do it, or?
Yes, more times than not. There's certain things that, you know, I'll say that I maybe have vetoed, or, you know, maybe just made like more of a. Actually, something recently happened where it was like our OG call. Like we made just like we're gonna go against conventional wisdom here, and like we're gonna really think like men, and we're gonna handle the situation how it should be handled. And that was something that was done where we actually had a user leave eventually from it. But you know, a person that talked a lot of trash, and in the game, their opponent ran the game. We could talk about it. It was King of Ura. Ura was very vocal. He started being on the podcast, and he was like always taking shots at guys. But then when he lost, it was always a reason why he lost. It was never because he lost. It was always that, you know, my players don't catch the ball, or I didn't, you know, it was
tired. I didn't sleep well.
Things like that. And it was just becoming a disrespect thing, because it was like, all right, like maybe not you're disrespecting the player. We, you know, we're strong enough to know that it's what the difference is. But I also feel like, yo, you're disrespecting the league too, because, you know, he did something on Showdown that I wasn't a fan of, like running off sides intentionally because he was losing big. It was after he talked trash about the guy on the podcast. So, you know, that was thing. And what happened was eventually he played King. He talked about how King couldn't pass, but then King won the game. And then King in the process ran up the score a little bit. Like he scored a touchdown.
Yeah, I saw that last touchdown.
And you know, and I understood it. And King has also had his own issues with infractions in the past, and he was almost out of the league. But he worked his way back, worked his reputation back, just started balling, stayed off our list. And he had a couple of seasons where there was no infractions. And we have always said that if a person has a season or two where they have been off our list, we almost like to give them a clean slate, almost in a sense, because like they've worked their way back to being a good on-point user. But in that situation, it wasn't right for us to suspend him, because it was a rivalry, and we always said we will take certain considerations for true rivalries, not just people that just talking trash for the simple, like literally a true rivalry. And if anything, Ura worked it up into a true rivalry, because he constantly called that man out and talked about him. So we just basically made an OG call, like, look, we're not going to suspend him for that. Like, yes, he shouldn't have done it, but, you know, we'll give him a warning, because in a sense, Ura deserved that. You know what I'm saying? Like, we were in the mindset,
right? Yeah,
deserved that, man. Like, you know, you talked a lot of S. You know, you kind of deserve sometimes to maybe get a little bit of your own medicine. And I thought that's what it was. And I felt like we were doing it. Yes, there was some inconsistency because we, you know, rung up other people for running up and pass. But every situation has been different in those situations.
There's gray areas for sure.
And it's great. And that's why I feel like as a staff, we also have to think real. We can't just always be like by the book. Yes, for the most part, we should be. But there are certain situations that give us a chance to look at things from a different perspective. And in those situations, we kind of just went against normal wisdom and just, you know, made an OG call. But more times than not, you know, everything else, we bring it to the table. Even situations that involve us, we always exclude ourselves, and we'll maybe bring in an outside person. We'll just get a proxy vote from, say, for example, someone like maybe a J-Rod, or we'll go to someone like, you know, Bueno, and just maybe ask him, hey, look, you know, this happened with, you know, this admin, but he can't be a part of the decision process because it involves him. So in this situation, how would you vote? And, you know, in that way, we include the league in the situation. It's something that we keep in our back pocket if we ever have to go down that road.
For sure. I mean, you guys always seem to be really good about transparency, so that's always something nice to have. So to lighten it up just a little bit, what could the members of MSR do to help out the admin team, or even make your job easier?
You know, accountability. That's the number one thing for me, man. My main issue with I'm not gonna say certain people. My main issue with certain situations that we've come across is when the spotlight is on a specific individual, they like to move the spotlight to someone else in order to make their case. And it really just rubs me personally the wrong way, because you wouldn't be bringing that up about the other person if we didn't have something on you. And it's like, was that was that something you were going to bring up regardless, or you're just bringing it up now because you feel like your back is against the wall and you're just throwing something, hopefully it sticks? Like, we've had people that have tried to compare suspensions, and it's just like, why are you comparing something? And I'm not a person that's looking to lie, especially in this Madden. We're playing Madden. I'm not looking to try to get over on you or just say something for my health or just to protect another guy. There's nothing in it for me to do that. There's zero in it for me to try to do that. If I'm bringing something to you, I'm bringing it because I need to address it with you, and let's figure out a way between the two of us and the staff to move past it. Let's just get ahead of it so it doesn't happen again or whatever, and keep it moving. But to make it seem like one person is more valued than the other, or there's some favoritism involved, like that stuff really is, those are the things that have really kind of, maybe have ruffled feathers a little bit. But, I always ask for folks to be accountable, really be accountable, and then just support the league. Support the league as much as you can. I just feel like if you're a part of this league, you should want to support it because we put out a lot of great stuff. We do a lot of great things. And this staff, the Genesis and MSR staff supports each other. We support everyone in this league. The new guys, we got new guys in our league that have done more in their maybe month entering the league than some guys that's been around for a while at times. It's just like, we just want to make sure it's congruent on all sides. Like, we just feel like the support that we get from the community is great already. If we just got maybe 10% more from certain people, man, it will really take us to a whole nother level. So it's almost like, what do you need to see to feel like you need to buy in, or what's left out there? But I would say just be accountable. No one likes to be called out for rules. I hate calling people out for rules. I don't want to put your name up there and say you did this and that. I hate it. I hate calling people out that have done something. It's not I would wish that no one broke a rule, because it literally is the last thing I want to do is to go back and review tape, or because I review every game, but I hate to have to go back and review something that maybe I might have missed while I watched the game, and then we have to go and compare versus another game and see prior situations. Those things take time, man. Like, I would rather not have to go through all that. But we also have to do things to keep everyone accountable and in line at times. And it would just be one thing I would say for you, everyone out there, to help is just really be accountable and just be active. That's all I ask, because literally it helps. Everything else runs itself if you do that. If you do those two things, I promise you, man, there's nothing that could go wrong with this league.
Absolutely. All right, and the final question on the question: what is next for MSR? What exciting things are looking forward to in the future?
So we have the podcast going on right now, multiple podcasts, including this one you listen to right now, The Question, with my boy Cole, who's been doing a great job with it. I remember you bringing the idea to me, man, and it's been flying. It's just been doing well so far. So first and foremost, let's shout that out, man. The podcast space, the Blitz with Tom and Cody, and also the New Dawn Show with Falco, Jugs, myself, and of course our special guests from time to time. We have a lot of great ideas coming. We're starting a commissioner series where we're going to be bringing in commissioners from other leagues and other communities, and really trying to, just kind of pick their brains, but then also, like, they're learning from us. They're learning from us. We're learning from them. Being able to kind of network and kind of put ideas together, because, man, I'm telling you, man, we are really coming down the line with some stuff in terms of migrating and really collaborating some stuff, some great initiatives and ideas that can really grow the franchise space. Madden 21, man, I'm telling you, man, there's some things that we have in terms of Showdown that I think a lot of people are going to be looking forward to. Our live streams are really about to ratchet up, guys.
They're so good right now. How are they going to get better?
And that's the thing, man, because I really feel like we could do so much better. And look, you guys hear me a lot. I host a lot of those live shows. But, I'm not the best. I don't really like to host. As much as you hear me all the time, I don't really like to do it. It's crazy. It's so, and I thank you, brother. I appreciate that. And what keeps me doing it is my energy for it. I put a lot of energy out there because I like to give it as if you're really watching the game. I like to really make it seem like, especially with everything that's been going on with COVID-19, man, like, we have needed an injection of sports in our lives outside of what we were expecting. So now, what can I do to give extra pump and extra incitement to it? And that's what I've really been trying to take that next step with it. And with some of these projections that COVID is really going to keep extending into possibly 2021 and beyond, man, I'm using that as motivation to kind of step my game up. Working on building a little studio in the man cave, and with some extra cameras. Having multiple angles of me calling the game. I don't want to give away too much. I want to. We're having a blog series coming up to start Madden 21. That's something I'm excited about. And we have some really interesting partners that are watching us right now. Like I said earlier, with StubHub is an official supporter and partner of the New Dawn podcast on the MSR network. But man, we got a couple other institutions and companies and other organizations that have been looking at us. Magazines. We're just really expanding the things that can be done in the Madden community right now, especially in the franchise space. And I think that there's a lot that's been left on the bone that people haven't been able to touch, and I and myself and a couple of other guys have really been trying to make sure that we can open those spaces for everyone, and we're just trying to be the first ones to knock down that glass door. So I'm looking forward to those things.
Absolutely, everything's been going great so far, and it just feels like when all other leagues were ramping down, MSR has just got started, and it just keeps going higher and higher, it seems like. So pretty exciting. All right, the last thing that we do on the podcast is a quick little word association. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to state a name, a phrase, or maybe even just a word, and you just tell me the first thing that comes up on your mind, all right?
I like that, bro. Okay.
All right, here we go. First thing, the MSR.
Outstanding.
Absolutely. Joey Vowels.
Oh, man, Joey's a pest. I love you, Joey, but he's a pest.
He's got a lot of energy.
He's got so much. Like, one thing I'll say quickly, Joey does everything with a great heart. He has a great heart. I got a lot of love for Joey, but boy, he can be a pest. I've told him this too. Like, you got to slow it down sometimes, man. But he's a great guy, man. Shout out to Joey.
Absolutely. Lenny. Madden 21.
Madden 21. Innovation.
All right. Abilities. Unnecessary. Yeah, I'm not a big fan of them this cycle.
There's some of them were cool, and don't get me wrong, I welcomed them with open arms. But when you play these, what's the point of attributes if just an ability can make it, trump someone having better attributes? That's the only thing I didn't like.
And there's just too many of them. Everybody's got ability.
They just threw one on. They just kind of just had it's like a bingo board. It's ability.
For sure. The Dallas Cowboys.
On the way.
On the other side, the Washington football team.
Legendary. The one thing I will say, I'm not a Redskins fan, never have been, but what that team means to the city of DC, yes, the name may have been offensive, but a lot of people didn't, even if we should have, a lot of people never felt that when they were rooting for the Redskins. They were rooting for their home team. And Redskins, if there's anything you can say about the Washington team, they are the home team for DC. And bigger than anything, when the Redskins are good, the city's good. I will always say that.
For sure. Falco.
Ooh, driven. Very driven.
He is driven. I'll tell you that the addition of Falco and then the reemerging of Hop, man, what a time it is to be an MSR.
Change the game, baby.
Speaking of Hop.
You said Hop?
Yeah, Hop.
He's a wizard, man. He does things quickly that he has a very efficient way of doing things that would take a lot of people long times to do, because he has the repetition he has down, and he sees things before they come up. And yeah, he's a great addition to us.
Absolutely. The New Dawn podcast.
Ahead of its time. And when I say that in the Madden space. It's something that a lot of people may have had the ideas to do, but it's being done in a way where it's coming organically. It comes with a lot of prep, and it literally feels like the real thing. What you ever expect in a podcast? The way podcasts are being done are rewriting the books, but New Dawn Podcast is really something that's really going to set a lot of trends in the Madden space.
Hey man, I love it. Like, and that's kind of where I got the idea after I heard that. Like, man, what can I do? And I said, what can I do to be different? And originally, my idea was this to be like a 10-minute podcast. Obviously, we've gone over an hour here, so that's not what this podcast is anymore. But I mean, it just brings so much to the table.
Yeah, 100%. Falco leading that wave, man, and getting that going. I always wanted to do a podcast, but never knew how to get it started or what I should talk about. He came with the idea, the treatment, the punch board. He did everything himself, and then that was his way of building himself up in the MSR along with Ura, and it changed the game for us, man. I think that Falco coming in, I've said it a couple times, Falco coming in was the wild card that we didn't know that we needed, because he put a lot of things in play that maybe we were waiting to do, and we were trying to rebuild this cycle, but he took that and like hit it with like just a ball, man, and it really changed the complexion of the energy there.
Absolutely. Madden 20.
An adventure.
I think we both had our struggles this time.
Oh man, it was an adventure, boy. It gave me a lot of love. One thing I will say, I love Madden all the time. I had a lot of fun. I had a lot of fun with this Madden, even though I maybe wasn't as successful with my leagues and everything. But I had a lot of fun with this Madden because all I was doing was trying to learn, and also about building MSR.
Absolutely. Genesis. It's the proven grounds, boy. Like, in so many ways, Genesis is that big. It's just a big pot of guys that's trying to figure out how they're going to be here, or people that are coming back and trying to find a way back. So it has a good amount of nervous energy where guys are just trying to prove themselves and then reprove themselves, and of course prove that they know the rules, and then prove that they can compete with the big boys. It's a lot of that, man. Okay, it's kind of fun down there at times. Some scheduling's a little difficult sometimes, but
yeah, a little bit.
Yeah. And then the last one, the Question Podcast.
The Question.
The Question Pod is, let's see, one word. Question. Appreciative. I feel like this podcast is appreciative of the people it brings on, which why it brings up great questions. These questions you asked me tonight have been outstanding, bro. Thank you so much.
Hey, no problem. And, I always try to find something that people enjoy to hear. I like to get on the inside. I always look for someone, and it's not always, I always try to find someone who maybe needs something to do too. Like, I had Rev on here, and I thought that was a great episode. So, and then I thought, I need to get Timbo on here. I think sometimes people just need to hear the voice from the man so they can understand the man. So, I wanted to have you on here, and I appreciate you coming on tonight with me and talking a little bit.
Hey, Cole, man. Hey, look, if there's anything I'm going to say that I haven't said tonight, I'm going to say this to you, bro. You and I, we spoke about a little bit to start the podcast. You and I maybe were, I don't know, I'm going to say at odds, but we didn't understand each other, I think, a little bit early on. And, you didn't understand why you were moved from the league earlier this cycle. But one thing I will say is you've shown what probably we were looking for before we let you go the first time. And that is, if there's anything that has come great out of that, is what we've seen from you now. This podcast, an example. Of course, you've done great on Twitter with the Cheddar of the Week. You're constantly in streams. You've really been you've been a bull yourself, man. You've really taken these last 2 months and really hit it on the head. Of course, you were wondering why a couple other folks were chosen over you. But I told you, it all works out. You will always see why you're here. And literally right after we had that conversation, not even a week later, man, you were back in the big show. So
that's right. Yeah, I don't think we even talked about this. This is my first episode since I've been back up in the MSR. So.
Oh yeah, well, hey, I'll take that.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Yeah, I mean, as much as it sucked being removed that one time, or every time it sucked, I think it actually put me on a better path. So, I think it was for the better good, for sure. All right, man, that's going to be the end of the episode. I appreciate you coming on. I know we got some big things going on tonight that you got to get to, so.
Yes, sir. Appreciate you taking the time for this, man. And, man, I'm glad I survived the questions.
That's right. Hey. All right, brother, take care.
All right, thanks a lot.
And that's going to wrap up episode 4 of The Question. Hope everybody enjoyed it. Timbo was great to have on, man. We got a lot of spicy stuff said in that episode. Join us next week when we talk about the offensive line and how to build one, what to look for, and should you worry about abilities or not. See you next time.